To make a place for the lid to fit into the body, we're going to start by hollowing with not a hollowing tool, but a Forstner bit. We'll use an 1¼ inch Forstner bit installed into a drill chuck in the tailstock, and we're going to bore a hole about 1 inch deep. It's not real critical right now how deep that is. I've already slowed the lathe down to about 500 RPMs. Perfect. Now we can make the lid fit. I'm going to remove the tailstock, adjust my tool rest square across the end. I've already sped the lathe back up to normal turning speed. I'm just going to use a square end scraper, making very small cuts, about a 32nd of an inch at a time, just pressing straight in. Move out a little bit further, press in again, and stop where the last cut stopped. And I'm using that tenon, the little stub of that tenon I left on there, as a gauge for what diameter I need to turn to. I need to go a little bit deeper. All right, that should work. Now I'll reinstall the tailstock, remove the drill chuck with that Forstner bit, and install a cone-shaped live center. I want to use a cone shape so I can center into the small hole in the top of the lid. Tighten everything in place, light pressure, doesn't require a whole lot. I just want to hold that lid in place. And now I'll use a spindle gouge to finish shaping the top of the holder. I can use the shape of the lid as a guideline, and I want to make these two seamless. So I'll just take light passes, and it's okay if you cut on the lid a little bit. That's why I didn't bother sanding and finishing that. With the top formed, we'll now work on the base. The first thing I'll do is use my calipers to mark its length, which is 3½ inches from this point right where it intersects the top. And at that point, it's 1½ inches in diameter. I can use a parting tool and the calipers to mark that diameter. This material here is waste material now. I'm using the parting tool to remove some of it to allow for more clearance with the roughing gouge. With the roughing gouge, I can shape the entire outside of the body. You may choose to do this with a spindle detailing gouge, but I find since there's so much material to remove, the shape lends itself to working with strictly the roughing gouge. Just a matter of working from point A to point B. It can be a little bit difficult to get a really crisp line up here at the top with the roughing gouge, so I do like to use a spindle gouge there. I also like to establish the exact length of the base. I already have the line from earlier. I'm going to part down just slightly below that. And now we can just finish the cut all the way to the base. Nice finish to find bottom. Here I started with a little bit of 180 sandpaper. I'll switch to some 220, go to 320 and 400. I'll do those by hand. Beautiful. Okay, now we can remove the lid, remove the cone live center from the tailstock, and we'll put that 1¼ Forstner bit back in, place the drill bit inside the hole, and I've already marked the depth on the bit with a piece of tape. Just going to bore to that depth. I've also already slowed the RPMs down. Clear the shavings from time to time. That's the finished depth of the hole. I've sped the lathe back up and replaced the tool rest. Now I'll just use a thin parting tool to part the base off. Small cuts down each side. With a thin parting tool like this, sometimes it can take some extra pressure to hold it tight up against the shoulder. And as you get down towards the base, you can choose to cut this off with a saw if you like. However, simply place your fingers inside the hole, let it fall off in your hand.